Hello, my name is Eric. My call sign is November 0, Uniform India Hotel. Today I'm going to show you the many different receivers and stuff that I have at the monitoring station, and also show you how to work it. Now, this monitoring station is located in Hazelwood, Missouri. It is about 15 miles northwest of downtown St. Louis. And right now the speakers are off on the stereo receiver that I've hooked all this equipment to. So let's turn on the speakers that are here in the shack. There's one speaker in each corner of the shack, which you can't see. That's the Yaesu FT-221R, which I use to receive DX on the AM broadcast band and shortwave broadcast stations and utility stations. The shortwave receiver I also use is the Sangean ATS-803A. Now the FT-221R is tuned to 1430 kilohertz. That's KZQZ in St. Louis, which is presently an oldies station. But as we go to tape, the station is presently up for lease. So this is KZQZ. No, this is where I control the two shortwave receivers. When I hit the button, I switch over to the Sangean ATS-803A, and it's tuned to 5945 kilohertz, which is the frequency of Radio New Zealand Pacific. Let's listen to that again. Now there's an extra switch, this one down here, that controls all the receivers and tape decks that go into the auxiliary jack of the stereo. Now number one controls this box, which controls the shortwave receivers. When we switch this to number 2, we go back and forth between this. This is a Unit and Bearcat BCD996P2, which is an analog and digital scanner. It's tuned to the local National Weather Service station KDO 89 at 162.55 megahertz, and that covers the St. Louis metropolitan area.
Chance of rain 70%. At 3 a.m. at Lambert Field in St. Louis, rain and fog were reported with a temperature of 55 degrees. The dew point was 53, giving us a relative humidity of 93%. The wind was northeast at 7.
So that's the scanner, which is once again a Unit and Bearcat BCD 996P2, which receives analog and digital communications, including the major trunked radio systems in this area. Slater, or the St. Louis Area Trunked Emergency Radio System, which many of the fire departments use. The police department uses this for encrypted communications, and several of the hospitals and public works departments also use Slater. There's also MOSWIN, which is the Missouri Statewide Interoperational Network, which the Highway Patrol in St. Louis City communicate on. And Metrolink also uses MOSWIN. And there's also Starcom on the east side, and Several police departments in Illinois use Starcom, such as Edwardsville Police, SIU Edwardsville Police, the Illinois State Police, Illinois Department of Transportation, Illinois Department of Natural Resources, Collinsville Fire Department, the police departments in Granite City, Madison, Pontoon Beach, and Glen Carbon. And I have this set up to pick up area police and fire radio systems within 100 miles of where I'm sitting right now. So that's the scanner.
Lincoln County until 7:30 p.m. Saturday.
This weekend, partly cloudy today, 55 degrees for a projected high.
That is the Radio Shack Optimus SCP-86 cassette deck, which I use to dub to the computer from.
Ooh. And speaking of Coca-Colas, we got a bunch of them to give away. And they don't even have to be in a refrigerator.
And then it's playing a 1991 air check. Actually, a 1990 air check of WPLO 610 kilohertz in Grayson, Georgia. I was living in Woodstock, Georgia at the time that was recorded. So let's listen to the cassette deck again.
Let's get this young lady right. Come right over here. Come right over here. Uh-oh. We'll find out who this is.
And number 4 is the realistic TM-152 Sequam AM stereo tuner, and I've had that since 1986. And I use that for air checking AM stereo radio stations during the 80s and 90s. And some stations still broadcast in AM stereo, and one of them lit up the stereo light. I don't know where that's from because that's on a crowded frequency. And tape 1 on this is set up for the computer, so I can listen to the recordings that I had made on the computer, in which you cannot see. And the CD jack is where I plug in the sound of the ham radios so that I can decode CW communications through my computer. I can also use that to try to decode slow scan television. Now this is the tuner I use for FM broadcast DX.
In Sacramento just recently, these guys are either dead or out of ministry.
Now that's the Kenwood AR304. I bought this in 2004, and the filter modifications were done by Dr. Bruce Elving, who's no longer with us. And the FM is tuned to the 102.9 translator in St. Charles, Missouri for KHOJ, the local Catholic radio station.
Out of it. 2 people that they were able to find. In Illinois just recently, they named 309.
So let's turn that back to the... So that was the AM stereo, and I turned off the scanner for a little bit, so I'm going to turn this back on and show you the speakers. These speakers I use for the speakers from outside the shack. Number 1 is hooked up to the speakers that are immediately outside the shack that can be heard in the laundry room. And then number 2 goes to the garage. And I want to get outside, and I like to listen to the police and fire communications in the garage while I'm either sweeping up or just relaxing in the driveway, those speakers are there so I can listen to this all the way out in the garage. So,
was reported reducing the visibility to 1/2 of a mile in Springfield, Missouri, with a temperature of 55.
so I hit the scan button. I can pick up. That's the Lincoln County, Missouri Sheriff's Department. It just came across. So, I'll show you something else, and
State, Charles City, the surrounding agencies.
that was the police during the morning. I've switched on the notch filter, which helps me with picking up adjacent channel signals and to clean up some of the interference. I have that on the Sangean. Now, that was with the Frog 7, or the FRG 7. Some people call the FRG the Frog, like the Frog 7 like I've got, or the Frog 7700, which is a digital tuning receiver. So that's about it from the Shag. Okay, this microphone right here, let's not forget this. This I use to talk to hams all over the world via my HF rig, which you cannot see. This is a CW keyboard, which I use to send messages in Morse code. I mainly do that on 50 megahertz. And the rig for that is also out of view of the camera. Now this is an antenna tuner, which I use to tune the dipole that's up in the attic. And I apologize for the microphone being in the way. And when I turn over to the shortwave, you can tune the antenna for the best received signal on this Sangean ATS 803A. So, and there's also two speakers I use for monitoring one of my digital TV tuners, and those are computer speakers I've set up for one of the digital TV tuners. And you can't see the television sets because they're off to the other side of the camera. Now over here is the ham station, which I use to talk to people all over the world. Now this is the ICOM 745, which I use for HF. And I've talked to people in 80 countries already. I've had this since 2010. This one over here is the 2-meter all-mode transceiver. I use that mainly for single sideband communications. Over here is the Kenwood TS60. I've had this since 2006. I use that for 6 meters, mainly single sideband. I've done some CW, AM, and FM simplex on the 6 meters. Now, hidden behind these wires is my 2-meter FM rig. It's a Yaesu FT-221R. I bought that in 2005, and I check into the local ham radio nets on that one. And right next to it is the antenna tuner I use for HF, for the HF antenna in the attic, which is a G5 RV antenna, which I originally used for shortwave listening. Now right here is the United and Bearcat 980 SSB as an AM and single sideband citizens band transceiver. I have used a homebrew inverted V with that one and made some contacts on the citizens band. Right here is the screen for the computer, and you can't see that because it's below the line of sight for the camera. I use that for decoding CW, slow scan television, and facsimile communications from HF. This is one of 2 TV sets I have for monitoring television stations. It's a Daewoo 13-inch color television that I inherited from my mom back in 1999. My mom and dad gave me that so I could monitor 2 channels at once. And up there is up above it is the one of 2 Zenith DTT 901 digital TV tuners, and it's barely within sight. And next to it is a antenna tuner for 6 meters, and on the other side of that, I don't think you can see that. It's a linear amplifier for the 2-meter ham band. And on the next shelf, I have the audio switch for the ham radio transceivers. It's hooked up to the stereo. And I have the rotor control box for the ham radio antennas. I have a 5-element beam for 2 meters and a 3-element beam for 6 meters on the roof. And I don't know if you can see that one. And also there's a control box for the rotor that has not yet been installed at this point for the TV and FM antenna. And next to that is a battery backup for my scanner. And right here, and I don't know if you can see this, is a 19-inch color television set that I bought the year I graduated from high school, 1985, and it has another Zenith DTT 901 hooked up to it. So with this, I can monitor 2 TV channels at once, and of course this one's for those long sessions in the shack. It's a coffee maker. So that's a tour of my shack. This is November 0 Uniform India Hotel. Thanks for watching, and 73.